Hello, everyday superpower where we talk body language, nonverbal communication, and dating, etc., etc. We got a little body language lesseroonie coming up. I'm going to teach you how to read and identify the behavior that you see before you. So we've talked briefly on crossed arms, right? But we're going to talk about crossed arms with the hands actually holding onto the arms, okay? So it's a further adaptation to the foundation that we've laid out with the crossing of the arms, where talking about the arms being gripped by the hands. Maybe it's just one hand gripping the other arm. Maybe it's both, as we see before us now. Okay, we've got a link or two down in the video description. One of them being the Patreon, where you will be able to join me in watching real life first dates, actual footage of dating, and I'll show you in real time the attraction and repulsion cues. You can take that out into the real world, and yeah, you'll never forget that information. That's to be assured and promised by me. Okay, so let's talk about it. If you see this manifest before you, yes, in the people you are speaking to, this is a folding of the arms upon the chest as the hands grip the arms. Now, the hands can grip the arms tightly, most definitely, sometimes so strongly that the knuckles you will see turn white. That's called blanching, yeah? So it's significant of high disagreement, definitely defensiveness, because we are forming a obstruction between ourselves and what we deem as a threat through one way or another. Maybe it's an idea of sorts, maybe it's a mental discomfort when you're thinking about something that's happened in the past, and it just the brain works parallel to the body, so it's symbolic of how you feel. And most definitely it comes with a high degree of protectiveness, as you are concealing your chest and your internal organs and so forth. Yeah, so in an evolutionary biological sense, it serves purpose in that realm. Okay, so if we're talking to someone and we see them cross their arms as let's say we're in a job interview, yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not the be all and end all. You have to understand that body language isn't just black and white. You have to read so many different factors and have such a broad open mind that when you see these behaviors, you can sort of clock on to when it appeared, why it would appear, and where you can go wrong, because last thing you want to do is misread this. Yeah, so we're using it as a tool to communicate ever so efficiently, yeah, and get what we want out of the world. Whereas when it goes wrong and we jump to conclusions, we're actually going to get the counter opposite, because we're going to be misreading people and just completely stumbling over what we believe people think of us or what we're saying and so forth. So let's say we're in a job interview and the person before, and I'm going to speak on experience here, yeah. And that's why I said about misreading and taking it with a pinch of salt, because I've seen this in job interviews, and even so, I've still managed to get the position. So there you go. But let me tell you, maybe it's down to the fact that I could clock onto it and understand, what it meant for me and how to maneuver strategically as far as what I said, how I said it, and when it manifests. So you're in a job interview and the person before you says, well, how come you've not been employed for 5 years? And then you see them fold their arms, hands on their arms, gripping on, as if to say, I'm not really wanting to leave this state of defensiveness. I'm not willing to leave this protective shroud that has come upon me in this particular line of questioning, right? One thing to take into consideration is they are not going to be so receptive of what you have to say by default, because their body is telling their brain to defend themselves and push away any, ideas or thoughts or concepts that you put before them. So keep it nice, simple, general. Don't start listing off spiel for the sake of trying to appease this person, because they are already showing you that they're not really too bothered about anything you have to say at that particular moment, because their body and their brain is only going to push that away. So answer it briefly, give them your best case, response to that, and then see if we can move onwards and lighten the situation up a bit. Okay? The palms touch the arms, and in doing so create positive hormones to the brains, all right, in the face of stress. Yeah, it's a pacifying behavior as such. There are more blatant pacifying behaviors, such as ones that come with a little bit more movement, as this tends to be quite static. But, the palms of the hands are sending a surge of positive hormones to the brain, given that they are covered in nerve endings and the arm is covered in nerve endings. And if we approach it from a regressive state of mind, imagine that person or the lady before you, you see in the image. Imagine when she was a young child. Yeah, she might have had a parental figure holder there around the elbow area or the lower arm, and so it's regressive and taking her subconsciously back to the state as to where she didn't have the worries and the responsibilities and the adult like world to live in she now does. So it comes with a regressive feel as well, dependent on how you see this manifest. Sometimes it's clearer than others, depending on where in particular, she is holding herself, or whether it's just one hand connecting with the other. It tends to be a little more clear when it's one hand holding onto the other arm, because that might be the particular arm as to which that parental figure or that authoritarian figure, the one of protection, would hold that person whilst they were younger. Yeah, we are the same people we were when we were kids. We're just a little older. So don't think we just cut like ties with that childlike state. It still exists within us. Okay, just manifests itself in a different, more indirect means. Yeah. The crossing of the arms is like one of the most well-known non-verbal cues to the world. Generally speaking, people tend to understand that it comes with defensiveness. They tend to leave it at that. It's not taught with much more depth than that, but people do identify it as defensiveness. And considering we've done a talk on crossed arms, I'm not going to go into an incredible amount of depth, but we are looking at the actual handling of the arms with the hands, yeah, which emphasizes and reinforces that arm cross. So imagine somebody says something to you, and then somebody shouts something to you. The same message is sent, but with more intensity and more clarification, with that shout, with that audacity, with that volume. That is what this nonverbal cue is telling you. It's saying, I am crossing my arms, but let me highlight the fact I'm crossing my arms. Let me reinforce this body language. Let me fortify myself within this crossing of the arms, instead of just allowing it to be comfortable. Yeah. Let's perceive it as a self hug. Yeah. Creates comfort in the face of a threat. Yeah. Shutting things out and protecting oneself. Yes. But adding the restraint, the self restraint of the holding onto the arms. Okay. So the person formulates a shield non-verbally, blocking your ideas, maybe blocking their own ideas. Maybe they are sitting by themselves thinking of negative things, and their body sort of utilizes this body language symbolically to protect their own self, because that brain doesn't acknowledge the difference between the threat of a bad and negative idea and train of thought, and the threat of like a physical predator out there, before us. You see, we're cutting off access to our protective organs and really looking after ourselves in a defensive fashion. Yeah. As always, ensure that you're not seeing this like in quite a literal sense in the face of coldness. If the person has had a night out in town, has gone out quite scantily clad, hasn't come out wearing a coat or a jacket, and is leaving the nightclub, at like 3 in the morning in the city centre, you might see people like this to, you know, ensure that they warm themselves up. But once again, there are parallels in everything. It still is a display of discomfort, right? It still is a display of protecting oneself from the elements. Yeah. So just to run down a few of the different, criteria, a few of the boxes this ticks off. It's defensive, um, arguably hostile, because if you think of one needing to restrain themselves, you have to question, what are you restraining yourself from? Are you holding back? Yeah, it's definitely closed body language. It doesn't get much more closed than this, does it? If you see this on a date, consider it, somebody being distant from you, what you have to say. The situation is such at that particular moment in time. It's protective, okay? Could be stubborn. That person doesn't want to move. Like I referenced in the job interview, that person might have already had an idea about you, asked the question, and just showcased their thoughts. You know what I mean? Was the question really needed? They already had that pre-existing notion within them that you were going to respond in a particular manner, or that question came, with an ulterior motive, and they've showed that to you through that body language. Yeah. So that's some game for you, yeah? On that note, I'm signing in. As always, check the links down in the description. Till next time, peace.